So my name is Nanjing. I'm an associate researcher at the Art Institute of the Nanjing University, and also I'm the project manager of the ephemera project. It's a digital project at the Rice University in the U.S. So today my presentation is about Chinese commercial advertisements, basically published from the late 19th century to the middle 20th century. About 3 years ago, I started to work with Professor Tony Barlow at Rice University in U.S. to establish a digital project of Chinese commercial advertisements. It's not only because advertisements as ephemera embedded in the print paper media is a minor transient document of everyday life, as well as a mixture of the text and image jointly recording activities in specific period and society. But also because as a thing of the user value, advertisements in modern China concretize a commodity-human relationship, vividly and visually exhibit how human finger, just like the modern girl, becomes the subjectivity of the consumer culture and satisfies the consumer's dream of modern life by fantasize the beautiful illusion of life to simulate the consumer to buy commodity. Advertisements is now the reflection or representation of the real society, or evidence of the influence of European or Western modernism on China, but also the imagination of the experiences of Chinese modern society and the real thing produced by the articulation of the global capital, modern international company, and vernacular sociology in specific period. This is a theoretical basement for our project. And you can see now on the screen is the 2 pages of the newspapers we selected from the Hankou Zhongxibao and the Shenjing Shibao. There are so many foreign companies' advertisements. Because of such kind of research have been done by Professor Tony Barlow at Rice University for almost 2 decades. She always wants to answer 2 questions. How can we say the real market of the foreign companies, which also means the global capital in modern China, since most documents of these companies have been destroyed during the wars? And how can we find out the idea of the modernity consists of the collection of the concepts, just like the modern, hegemonic, human, and race, in commercial and common ideas, and in intellectual sociological theories immersed into the everyday lives of ordinary people during the process of the transformation of the society of China. Because such kind of question, we started to think about the way in digital. Because the traditional way for humanities scholars to study advertisements is to take a close reading of ads chosen from the selected newspapers by scholars. There are no consistent and unified criteria for the interpretation of ads. Also, with this sampling way, ads are mostly used as evidence and illustration of the historical facts in humanities studies. Study process and the recording results are both supervised. Meanwhile, serving as an evidential supplement to a linear narrative of history, the selected advertisements are described and elaborated by the same linguistic symbol system used by the historical narrative text. The meaning of the ads, especially of the ad images, are affiliated to and decided by the language that is paradigmatic for meanings. So image wasn't taken as important and independent objects of the historical studies. So in short, image cannot speak themselves but for text. So if we believe skill matters, just like the Catherine Hales was revealed from his essay title is How We Think, Transforming Power and Digital Technology. The large scale, like the Google Books having more than a million ebooks, more precisely more than 1,000 million of images on websites, blogs, YouTube video, Facebook posting changed not only the quantities of text that can be interrogated, but also the context and the content of the questions. So if reading can be operated by the machine, it will lead to the step of the machine reading that might be the first part towards making visible patterns that human reading can then interpret when the large-scale multi-causal event occur as a magnitude far beyond the individual actor and the ability of humans to absorb the relative information. Then what we do is, under this theoretical framework of the distance reading, digitizing and archiving the large-scale newspapers' advertisements could be able to provide possibility to look into the inside model of interpretation that is invisible for the sampling studies based on the individual studies in the traditional way, which could be fruitful for research in two ways at least. Either by fulfilling our expectations and so stressing its theoretical basis, or by violating them and so bringing the basis into question. The first thing we did, actually we are still working on it, is digitally archiving or metadating the images of advertisements to make the image's content visible as a systematical and consistent database that could be analyzed by machine. The second step we're going to take is to adapt the statistical method to analyze the content of the images and set up a concept network of social ideas. So today's presentation, I will mainly focus on the first step, and Professor Deng He from the Tsignhua University will talk about the second step from the statistical analysis methodology. So how to make the images speak themselves? We borrow the metadating term from the Professor Lemmanovich. And metadating means inventing new system of image description and categorization, inventing new interfaces to image collections, and inviting new kinds of images and approaching the new superhuman scale of visual data available as a creative opportunity. So our metadata of the Chinese commercial advertisements archive includes 4 kinds of metadata categories. The first one is the descriptive data. Means we use this metadata to describe the visual and textual content of the ads. And contextual information data includes companies' information, brands' information, not really related to the content of the ads, but also from the external resource. Bibliographical data means physical papers data, and technical data means real metadata. So you can see this is a page of the advertisement, and this is with the red frame is the ads we chose. And we use for the descriptive data, we have the subject, ad title, ad full text, and ad description and agency. And contextual information data includes commodity, brand, category, company, agency, nationality, agency, address. And the bibliographical data includes the newspaper's page number, public China year, newspaper's title, and the page publisher issue date. Technical data means some metadata of this image, this digital image. So this is a basic workflow for our archive. We have some specific website to digitize and annotating these images. And this is our work platform. So there is a basic annotating frame. And here's our code book, because we need to have a consistent and unified code book to make sure the content is accurate. And also we have some, because for the visual description is quite difficult to do the recognition, automatic annotation for the images. We tried to use some software, but we failed. So we chose the basic way, more like a traditional way, to use the words to describe the fingers in the ads. Like we have some keywords, like we describe that content as animal, plant, human, with and also with some subcategories, including female, male, old, young, middle-aged people. And also we use some words to describe the design style and the context information. This is our archive objects. So eventually this summer, after we release our archive, we will have about 200,000 high quality digital images of ads for international brands published in 5 Chinese newspapers. Because those cities are the most important treaty pots in China, period. And this is basic information for each newspaper. And we also ran some simple statistical analysis, because after we extracted all of those informations, we can do some simple statistical analysis, like which brand is often published, and also what kind of category, like the medicine, tobacco, motor vehicle are most popular brands. And also we do analysis of metadata of the 2,554 images in Hankou Zhongxibao. Just in 1 year, we get some interesting results. And this is the first page. So we want to know which page have the most in advertisements. And also we compare the different companies, but also the medical products. This is the first page in whole year. And also we analyze the keywords of subject, like we compare the two keywords, illustration and female, because we want to say if all of those image advertisements having the illustration to marketing their products, what kind of fingers they use often. So basically, all of those popular brands have the female fingers. And also the next step, interface part, we are trying, because since we already have all of those, addresses of the agencies and the company branches. So we hope in the future, next step, we want to do the GIS to have a mapping, to mapping the marketing of those foreign companies in China as the 5 cities. And also for text mining part, with the text mining, we basically want to achieve 2 things. The first one is to discover potential associations among the features and the technical terms from the advertisements. The second one, we want to build links between these fingers and terms and our knowledge about the ideological trend and the social dynamics of China in the period to achieve the quantitative analysis or create new knowledge. For the concept network model, Professor Deng Ke will talk more about the methodology part. This is a basic process of the research for the next step. So we need to, because if we want to connect the concepts used in the ads, we have to have a more general information database. So we are going to establish another database of the theoretical ideas, including the intellectual papers, books, and documents about the sociology and about the advertisements and about such kind of modern products. Then we will connect the two databases together to find a dictionary of those keywords. And then we just use text mining way to find out how can we do a network between all of those concepts. Okay, that's basically my part of the presentation. And I just switched the talking to the Professor Deng He.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Deng He, and I'm a statistician from the Tsignhua University. I'm very happy to be here today to share with you my recent research on text mining. So as we all know, so mining text is a very important problem in the big data era. That's because text is the most natural way to deliver knowledge. And a lot of information is in form of text, and a lot of information in the human society is in the form of text, and a lot of information can be eventually converted into text. Nanjing already gave us a very good example, so we have more examples here. The first example is very popular today, so just mining the online text. We can do the text mining for the news articles, yield comments, blogs, and the tweets. From all those kind of texts, we try to identify the hot social events. We want to do the customer profiling, which can eventually help us to do a better marketing strategy. The second example is more specific. This is a joint project with my collaborator, Professor Peter Bo of Harvard University. So here, what we want to do is to collect a lot of historical documents in the history of China, then try to mining from this text this key information about historical figures, and eventually we try to come up with a social network of historical figures. Here we just focus on the mining Chinese texts. This slide gives us a typical example of the Chinese text. So here you can see that a key difference between the Chinese text and the English is that in the Chinese sentence, we do not have the spaces or the word boundaries between different words. And actually in Chinese, the word itself, the definition is quite vague. So the missing of the word boundary is a key challenge in the Chinese text mining and make it much more difficult compared to mining the English text. In many real problems, when we try to mine the domain-specific Chinese text, we typically need to do the following things. First of all, we need to do the word discovery. So because, as you mentioned, in Chinese, so the word is not well defined. We need to discover them from the text to get our underlying vocabulary. And the second step is a key, and we need to do the text segmentation. So we need to break this sequence of Chinese characters into the sequence of Chinese words and phrases. This is the base for all Chinese text mining methods. And thirdly, we often need to recognize these named entities. Then sometimes we want to do some high-level analysis. We try to do the social relation extraction, and sometimes we need to do the word knowledge summary and the presentation. So here are some traditional methods doing this work, and basically they are supervised approaches. These methods usually have training data, so they use a manually segmented text with labels as the training data, and they also assume that the underlying vocabulary is known, and also often use grammar rules to guide the learning methods. But in many applications, as Nanjing have presented, and my collaboration project with Harvard scholar, and all those things cannot happen because when we deal with traditional Chinese texts, we often do not have any training data. And we cannot assume that the underlying vocabulary is known because we often have a lot of unregistered and unknown words and phrases. And typically, the online text and the traditional Chinese text, they have very different grammar rules. The text can be written in a very messy way, so anything can happen there. For the supervised approach, usually they cannot be directly applied to this scenario. And another very popular branch of the text mining is the topic model. But for our purpose here, the topic model usually lose too many detailed information in the data. And sometimes the results are not very easy to be interpreted for our purpose. To overcome all those problems, we propose a novel statistical approach, so-called the word dictionary model. The model is very simple and actually can go back to maybe 30 years ago. And so basically, we assume that we have a dictionary D here and contains lots of words and phrases. And each word and phrases, they have a unit frequency. And we can imagine that the data generation procedure is the monkey just sitting by this magic box with a lot of words with different unit frequency. Then the monkey just randomly pick up one word from the magic box, then put them together. We will get a Chinese sentence. So here is an example. We can generate this Chinese sentence with 3 jewels. The first word Wang An Shi with probably 10%, and Wei at 20%, and this long words 10%. Then put them together, we generate this sentence with this probability. And we can also generate this text in an alternative way. We can make 5 different jewels, then we can also get this sentence, but with a much smaller probability. So the key point of this model is that we start from the box of vocabulary of words, and each word have a unit frequency, and we just randomly pick up those words independently and put them together. This is a very simple model. Definitely, this model is very simple, but we can show that this very simple model can help us a lot in discover Chinese word and to do the text segmentation. So the first thing we want to show is the simple model can help us to partition the sentences into the words level. So here is a toy example. Assume that we only have a toy dictionary with 6 different words. The word frequency is displayed here. And now we just have this Chinese sentence without any word boundaries between the words. Then we try to do the sentence partition. So we can just say that based on this toy dictionary, we can only have 2 different ways to partition this text. This is the first way, and this is the second way. To do some probability calculation, we will get this is the likelihood of the first partition, and this is the likelihood of the second partition. So if we normalize the probability, we will find that we should take the first partition with a very high probability. So then based on the maximal likelihood principle, we will partition the sentence in this way. Okay, so another thing is that at the beginning, usually we do not have the underlying word dictionary. But here we can propose a very simple way to generate it. Give us this text. We can simply enumerate all those qualified substrings from the text. Then we come up with the initial dictionary. So here we just try to enumerate all the substrings containers less than 4 Chinese characters, and the unit and the frequency is larger than 2. So in the practical problems, this initial dictionary can be very large. But to do some model selection based on the statistical principles, we can remove a lot of unnecessary words from the dictionary, and finally we can get a much smaller final dictionary. So the procedure is very standard, so we just use the EM algorithm. Because we can just treat the missing word boundary in the Chinese text as missing data, then we can use the EM algorithm to estimate the unit frequency, which is an unknown parameter of the system from the real data. So here I just show this toy example. Start from this initial dictionary. Then we can just do the E step and the M step. We can just do this 2 steps iteratively. and start from this initial value. In the each step, we just enumerate all the possible partitions, calculate the probability, so then we can get a relative weight of each partition. Then we can simply count how many times each word appeared in the segmented text based on this weighted weights. So then we can update this counts for each of the words. This is the M step. So then we can update the parameters. So in the next step, we can repeat this procedure again. So we can see that we start with this status of the parameter, then we do the E step again, and then we do the M step. We can see that the parameter changes. If we repeat this procedure for several times, eventually the method will converge to this value, and we can see that some words, their unit frequency will converge eventually to 0, means that those words is removed from our model. So by this very standard procedure, so we can start from a very large initial dictionary, but end up with quite a small dictionary, and all those important words will be kept, and all the other words will be removed from the system. Another important issue is we can design score, so-called importance score, based on the likelihood ratio statistics to quantify how important one word is. So basically, it's just compared to models. In the model A, we have this full dictionary with all of these 6 different words. And in the model B, we just select to remove one word from the dictionary. Then we can calculate the likelihood of these 2 models. Then we do a ratio, so we get this R is a likelihood ratio statistics. So if this value is large, so here it's pretty large, it's 13.5, means that this removed word, Wang Anshi, is very important. So we should not really remove it, we should keep it. But in another example, if we try to evaluate another word is Wang, and we can see that this time we get a very small likelihood ratio value is just 1.808. So means that this word is not so important, so we probably can remove it from the system to simplify our model. So based on this importance score, so we can finally rank all of this discovered words in one certain order. So the words in the top list should be the most important ones. This is a method. It can be calculated quite efficiently. So then we just apply this method to a lot of different type of data. So here is just one example. We try to apply this method to the historical of Song dynasty, one of the longest dynasty history of China. So this picture gives us the raw text from the book. And this book is pretty huge, have more than 5 million Chinese characters. We apply our method to this raw data, then start from the pretty large initial dictionary with 250,000 word candidates. And eventually we just select 30,000 words from this huge book, and we rank all those discovered words into certain order based on the importance score. And this table shows us the top 100 words discovered from the text. So if you can read Chinese, you will realize that all those words are very meaningful Chinese words. And to help you to understand the meaning, so I just put one letter behind each of the words. So the P means that's a phrase, and this T means it's a time label, and the N is the name, and the A is the address. So you can see that all those words are very meaningful Chinese words. And we also ran through the long list of the words and pick up the top words in different category. So this part gives us all those names, and these names are all names for the emperor and very important officials in the Song dynasty. And this column is office title, and here is addresses. It's a range titles. It's a lot of other common words and phrases. This slide just shows us this method. This is our method, WDM, can do a pretty good job for the segment the text. So here the different colors just highlight the different type of named entities. So here we can see that our method can actually segment those things pretty good. And compared to the Stanford parser, another popular method for the text segmentation, we can see that a lot of these named entities are segmented in a wrong way. So here we just try to conclude my talk today. So the proposed method, so-called WDM, have a lot of advantage. This method have a simple but explicit model, and we do the analysis with rigorous statistical principle. And this method do not need any training data, and it's very fast enough to mining a huge data set. And it's also very efficient to discover the low frequency words, and it can give the higher rank to more important words, and it's very easy to incorporate with the prior knowledge. I just want to thank my collaborator, Professor Jun Liu and Professor Peter Bo of the Harvard University. Okay, I will just stop here. Thank you very much for your attention.